In the previous episode, we have specified two great libraries. One is named AOSQL, which we can use in Python to write SQL in a very nice way in folders, to import SQLs and to pass parameters. So it's a very nice and frequently used library for using SQL from within the Python language. Another library that we have specified is the Fast API, which is very useful in order to write APIs, REST APIs, and in general APIs. Both libraries are really great and they are heavily used. They are pretty much bulletproof, they are fast, they are working good. Third library that I think in combination with the previous two libraries make a really great trio of libraries is the Jinja templating library. So with these three libraries, what we can achieve is a library that would connect us to the SQL and would really make our lives much easier. A library for API creation, and then the next library, the third one, is a library for templating. Why is templating so important or so useful for us? Because with templating, you can generate SQL files, you can generate HTML, you can generate emails, you can generate reports. It's a really nice way to look at an HTML template, if you remember the JSP style, previous styles, and to template the variables inside the HTML. I'm a strong proponent of generating static HTML, either in compile time, in offline, or at runtime, because sometimes the internet is just fast enough for you not to make our life complex with dynamic content. We can use dynamic content and Ajax, but in many cases, we don't really need this. And also, in cases we need this, then good templating libraries can help us. Even if you need to just do some ad hoc work and generate some JSON or generate some report, or perhaps you have noticed that the SQL that we are writing is becoming too complex and we need to copy paste something ad hoc, not something of the useful styles. And then we can use a templating libraries in order to generate such content pretty much fast. So what is the Jinja2 library? First, its version is 3. So Jinja2 is the Python library which we can use in order to generate template files. Recently, I have used it in order to generate an SQL file, so I needed some ad hoc SQL. And the SQL became complex, and I don't really want to invest too much time in this, so I just use a templating with Jinja, and it auto-generated with a loop. The SQL, it repeated a part of the SQL 10 times with 10 variables. It was really nice. It was very useful for transformation from column to row-based or row-based result to column-based. Depending whether the SQL supports pivot or not, but that's a different story. So basically, why do we need a templating engine, you may say? I can just write the content of the text file myself, right? So basically, yes, but the templating helps you, for example, to have a header in the template file extends, let's say, base.layout. So when you do extends.base.layout, then you get immediately the template that you wrote in the layout file. In addition, the templating engine can do additional validations and security and automatically escape the text that you generate. If it's for HTML or for XML, it would accept automatically when you call the render function in order to render the output generated file. Then it would assist you by allowing to pass variables. So if in my SQL, let's say that I had the shampoo color variable, then I can just pass red, green, blue, and array-free, and it would use these variables. So how does a template look? So the input to the Jinja2 would be a template file, and then you calling the render with variables. Templating engine would take the template file. The template file could have for loops, imports. It would generate it, take the variables, and replace every time it sees a placeholder for a variable. Usually placeholder for variables in all those templating engines is double curly braces. If you have a double curly braces user.name, the templating engine would replace it with the user.name. And the templating engine would give us a few more benefits. For example, we can choose if to use a compile time generation of the template, or we would just call the render sometime in the application lifestyle. And in order to install this Jinja library, then we run, for example, pip install Jinja2, and then we can start templating things till our death. Templating SQL, HTML, email, and reports. The best practice is usually just to create some kind of a folder that contains all the templates, if you know, B files folder, and then when you want to actually apply the template to the input variables, then you create a templating environment, create an object of type environment in Python, and you give it the template name, and then you start passing some meta parameters, such as whether we want to escape this environment, or we want to escape for XML to auto escape, and then we just call template.render. And if we want to pass variables, we pass variables in the brackets, in the arguments to the render functions. We have a template file. In the template file, we have curly braces for variables. We have there some loops, some imports of others. Then we call in Python, the environment object. We create it. We tell the environment object whether we want it to auto-escape XML. And then in the third line, we call template.render and pass the optional parameters. If our template won't accept any parameters and won't use any variables, then we'll have nothing to pass to it. So I think this trio of three libraries, AIOSQL, the Fast API, and the Jinja, can serve as a really fast lane to creating projects from start. Of course, creating projects is not about coding, but on the coding side, it gives you the power tools. I mean, if you are a good craftsman, for example, if you are a good sailor, that does not necessarily mean that you have a good ship. You can be a good sailor with not the best ship in the market, right? You can be a good fisherman because you know your job well. But if you're a good fisherman and you get the best tools, then it's doubling your effectiveness. So using AIOSQL, I think, with the combination of Fast API for APIs and with the combination of Jinja for templating are some powerful tools, very powerful tools for Python developers. So in this third session, we focused on the Jinja, and in previous sessions, we focused on the Fast API and AIOSQL, and this was a brief introduction to Jinja2 version 3, the templating engine in Python. Thank you for listening, and see you next time, guys.